Welcome back to the French Rugby Podcast with me, Tim Groves, former Scotland international and adopted Frenchman, Johnny Beattie, and ex-Claremont and France hooker, Benjamin Kaiser, who is becoming more British by the week, Benji. So you had lunch with the Queen last week, we established. And
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. And this weekend, anything more British you've been up to?
Well, just getting used to the long weekend. It's basically a 3-day celebration in England. It so happens that the sun is absolutely out and glorious. So it feels pretty surreal, to be honest. Everybody's boozing everywhere that I go to. All the pubs are full, the restaurants are full, all the dinners that I get invited to completely get out of hand. All the lunches completely get out of hand. But amazing fun, just fantastic to see people properly. As a symbolic, on the 17th of May, you could legally hug your parents, couldn't you? So I haven't seen my parents forever, poor things, and they're going absolutely mental. I think they might come. We worked it out last week. I think next week my mom is like, listen, forget about it. We'll just come. They're gonna have to take a PCR test by the day 2, day 8 once they get to England. Quarantine in our house, so they will not be able to move from our house because, you know, like I told you boys, the police came and knocked on my door and all that. And then when they go back to France, they're going to have to quarantine for another 7 days. But in the last 14 months, they've seen the kids 2 days. They're absolutely losing their shit. And they're like, wow, whatever it takes, just do it. They're going to spend probably $1,000 on PCR tests because in France, I think they're relatively free, but in England, they definitely aren't free. And they're pretty steep, and they're gonna come. But yeah, no, a long weekend was beautiful. What can I say? I lost a mate because the guy told me, he says, no, you're not French. You're actually an Englishman with a shit accent. And that's a double hit. That is somebody chops you at the ankles and Joe Corey whacks you from the top. You know, I was in pieces, but I'll blame that on too much red wine.
Who was that?
In the sun. But
who's your former mate? Name him.
Mate,
you don't know his name.
The contact is erased. It's gone. It's done. It's forgotten. But no, all good. Just great, absolutely fantastic weekend with friends and family in the sun. It was beautiful.
And Benji might have a family visit to look forward to, but Johnny, you're right in the thick of that at the moment, aren't you? The in-laws are in town.
Yeah, it's been good. Look, generally, I kind of miss bank holiday weekends back in the UK because it's generally a 3-day bender where you try and do your best to keep up with everyone. Generally, I don't. Whereas in France, it's more, there's 4 bank holidays essentially in May. You get 4 weekends, or there's 4 dates where it's extended. But in France, it's much more refined, more chilled. And
how do you get any work done? 4 bank holidays in May.
I think that's the aim. I think that's why they do it. We don't get anything done, but it's great. So it's nice, relaxed. And yes, we've got our in-laws here. So I think my house has gone up by about 50 grand in value since they've arrived. We've been in the garden. We've making it all look presentable. It's just been awesome to have them. We've moved about 2 tons of stones. We've taken out bamboo, mate. We've done everything. So the house is looking good. We're even getting to the golf course with Drew, my father-in-law, on Thursday, which will be great. And like you said, Benji, I haven't seen my folks in a year. And so just to see them, it's the next best thing. It's great to see them, great to have some contact with family, great for the kids as well to see some family. And as you said, look, it's been a scorcher back home in the UK. Here yesterday it was 32, 33 degrees in the southwest of France. It was pretty hot, pools open. And look, it feels like summer's coming. So no, it's been good. It's great to see family, and it's great to see that summer is just around the corner. Just to give you another example, Tim, in France, basically, the bank holidays are the dates that they fall upon, right? It's going to be on a Monday, it could be on a Sunday, it could be a Thursday, it could be whatever. So we created this new world, faire le pont, do the bridge. Do the bridge means if it's a Thursday bank holiday, then obviously the school will close on Friday because there's no point, not going on Thursday to come back Friday to then have the weekend, right? And I'm looking at these people like, what the fuck are you talking about? Of course, there's the point. There's parents who need to put their kids at school, right? You don't skip a day to skip a day. And the same when I had the shops, it was just that whenever it was a Thursday bank holiday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, in ghost town in Claremont, everybody would jump in the car, go to Biarritz, go to Montpellier, go wherever you want, go away for the weekend, and it was a ghost town. So when you have 4 of them on just the month of May, it's long, it's complicated, it's super frustrating with the teachers tell you, oh, come on, on va juste faire le pont. Well, no, not really. No, you just stick to your job, do what you want to do, and make sure you teach our kids. Hey, tell it to my in-laws. They think it's gin and tonic time every day at 4 o'clock. They're like, this is awesome. Why isn't it like this back in the UK? I think they want to stay. No, French holidays in France are good in May. They're enjoying it.
Well, bank holidays are definitely good news. And on the theme of good news, we sort of broke it last week, but we can mention the broadcaster now, obviously, and have a chat about it in more detail. The top 14 is back on TV in the UK and Ireland, Premier Sports. They're going to broadcast some of the final games of this season, started last weekend, and they've got it for the next couple of seasons. So they're going to be showing up to 4 live games a weekend and a highlights show as well. So great news, isn't it?
Yeah, and we thanks to Johnny, we sort of started a tiny little relationship with them, and we did a few plugins that maybe the viewers saw, the guys who followed Top 14 this weekend saw at halftime. So hopefully it's going to be a long-lasting relationship for sure. The only shit news, Tim, is that Johnny is one hell of a presentator, so you can basically bugger off because he can do it all.
Go on then, Johnny.
Mate, I just have to tee up questions, let Benji knock them out of the park. It's easy. I make him look good. I just shine them up, tee them up, and you smash them. No, it's good fun. But look, generally, it's amazing news for French rugby fans. Everyone that listens to us that's back in the UK, it's class. It's been off TV screens for 2-3 seasons. I remember when it was on Sky Sports, I used to love watching. That's how my friends and family caught games when I was playing. So just the fact that it's back on screens is fantastic. All the best players, the French players that we don't get to see week in, week out, we just see in European competitions, your Duponts, your Intamacs, and then all of your world-class talent that's over you, your Colbys, your It's the Best, your Kanos, guys that you haven't seen for a couple of seasons. It's just amazing that they're back on TV screens. So that's it. It's great for the top 14. It's great for French rugby that we get to see a bit more back in the UK. It's good news. Like, what's not to like? The only difference is going to be we don't know how much budget they're going to have behind it yet. So we don't know if they're going to have, if Benji and I can be pitch side for them and can actually showcase a little bit of what goes on behind the scenes, or if it's just going to be commentary done from a cupboard somewhere. So look, I hope they go whole hog and they make a real effort and there's loads to be done and we can really show what goes on at the grounds in French rugby. But in any case, it's just great to have it back on screens. Great that people can have a bit more insight into the games and see it firsthand.
We will come on to talking about how the top 14 is shaping up this season ahead of the final round. But a bit of news is broken that I just can't wait to get your opinion on. You know what it is already.
This one's coming for me, isn't it? Oh my
yeah.
God.
Benji, I've got many questions for you. Referee Alexandre Ruiz, he is hanging up his whistle and becoming defense coach at Montpellier. Now, I know refs sometimes help clubs out with their discipline, nuances at the breakdown, that kind of thing. But defense coach, that's unprecedented, isn't it? So what do you make of it?
I'm really looking forward to your take on this, Benji. Go on.
I thought about it all night, mate, and I have to weigh my words because it's a bit of a tricky one. To be honest, I think it's a very, very clever play from Philippe Saint-André. If you want to know, where to invest on the stock market, because where the new tech is going to go, you get the chief engineer of Google. He's seen it all. He's seen a lot of things. So basically, if you get Alexandre Ruiz, whatever he does, because apparently he does have a little bit of coaching experience in sort of the equivalent of 5th to 6th division and Federal 3. Yeah. So not too bad. And he's always been keen to do that. The cheeky side of me wants to say, you could tell on his face when he reffed that he wanted to do more. I always struggle with his attitude. I thought he was very much, he would tell people what he wanted to impose himself more than impose the law. And that's maybe what it would be. The cliche of saying that some refs are maybe like frustrated old players didn't apply to him, but maybe he was frustrated because he knew how good he could be in terms of maybe getting the boys to actually perform better. Basically wanted to be a coach. So now it sort of makes a little bit more sense. And I think it's very, very clever from Philippe Saint-André, because imagine, I know all the coaches are frustrated with the lack of feedback or the lack of communication between the refs. All that is going to be on a friendly basis and pretty, straight up. If you consider that Alexandre Ruiz is a good ref, and however, I don't like his personality, I think he is a good ref. He's going to have a straight up sort of attitude to stick to what he knows, to his integrity, but still bring so much to Montpellier in terms of the direct contact to every single ref that they possibly have, potentially even have before other teams knowledge of what rules are going to be changed in the next couple of months, where rugby's going and all that insider info that is going to be extremely valuable. Now, as a defense coach, I don't know how good he can be. I don't know how good he will be. I don't know how he will be received by the boys, to be fair. That's going to be one tricky bit where he's just, I just imagine speaking to Guillermo Guirado and to all those guys, and he's going to have swallow a bit of a chill pill, pay a few rounds of beers at the clubhouse, most probably, and then build a relationship from there. But fair play to Philippe, because I think he's the one behind it. It's a very, very clever strategic power play.
How would you have received it, Benji? How would you have received it?
Benji doesn't like him, so it's easy.
Yeah, no, mate. That would have been problematic.
So you said
however, I never had a distant relationship with my coaches, considering sort of post Leicester or even back in Clermont and stuff. You spend so much time, and I was sort of getting on in my career that I had a pretty tight unit. So I considered the coach as part of the boys, different type of boys, but part of the boys. And I need that sort of, integrity and straight up respect. When somebody rocks up like that, it's going to go from him, to be honest. And I can't judge not knowing how he's going to adapt to Montpellier. Maybe he's going to be an absolutely delightful guy, and who was a player, because I know he actually played with Dimitri Zarzeski and Yannick Nyanga in Béziers a long, long time ago. I discovered that after he stuffed us with Clermont against Racing, and Yannick Nyanga was playing for Racing, and Dimitri Zarzeski too. So I discovered that one afterwards. But no, it's going to be down to his attitude. Does he know stuff? Absolutely. Has he got a quality brain? Is he hardworking? Of course. If you get to that level of refereeing, that means you're ready to work hard. Now, is he ready to put a bit of human side to it, of humility, of respect, of just general kindness? Then it's up to him, and I'm sure he's ready to do it. But I would have struggled. Maybe because of his age, maybe because of his background. If you get Nigel Owens, you like him, you don't. He's just, a refereeing genius. So yes, please. Just for the knowledge, I would have taken it. But yeah, it would have been complicated.
So strangely, to come back, like you said, it's a genius play. I think it's a bet. Like this could either be quite good or it could be an absolute disaster.
Why would it be a disaster?
Because, mate,
how could it be?
Yes, he might have detail and insight into refereeing strategies and foresight, but ultimately that is going to change in 6 months. The directives will change. Therefore, that becomes outdated. So we all have to catch up anyway in clubs. And look, you already have clubs that have refs come in as consultants. You have, for example, Pascal Gauzer comes into Bayonne. He helps us with 15 on 15, referees it. You have practice with referees, working with different techniques. He explains different detail and breakdown. But there's a massive jump in that to somebody explaining how to compete for ball breakdown, tackle technique, defensive circulation, backfield strategy, how do we defend from kick chase? It's a completely different kettle of fish. And that's where it's a huge jump. So for me, it's a bet. Like you're taking a risk on a guy who's, okay, a top level coach, works in top 14, but his last coaching experience was Federal 3. And Federal 3 is not top 14. Montpellier are aiming to be a top 6 side with a watertight defense and to smash teams. Like, so normally you'd go with somebody with a bit of experience in that area. So for me, it's a bet. Like you've gone with a guy who's got nous, knowledge and intelligence in rugby, in the referee sphere, but in the defensive sector, no idea, unproven quality. That's why it's a bet.
No, but I agree with you, but you know what's going to happen. Imagine if there's absolutely zero tactical fit after 6 months. Then he's going to be rearranged. He will not be, because what bothers you is basically his title of defense coach.
Yeah,
because you don't mind the fact that he's got a good brain, that he can be very useful. It's just the actual defense coach. I think the staff of Montpellier was done. Right, there's this whole Franck Azema thing. What are we going to do right now? So we're going to stay with Philippe. I just want to, build it, make it a little bit more, a bit more depth within my staff to be able to allow them to do exactly their role. Bruce Rayana, I think, is going to do skills and maybe kicking and stuff like that. He's going to bring that other angle. You know that they're not getting Bruce Rayana only for the skills and the kicking. They're going to be like, right, we're going to, suck your brain out. Tell me how Bristol Bears is working at the moment. Tell me how the Premiership is working at the moment. Give me about your Kiwi experience. Give me all that. So they want the general, you in my mind, you sign more a person than you sign just an absolute task, especially in France. And so they're all going to try to work together. So if you forget about defense coach, if you come as, assistant coach for Alexandre Ruiz, and you bring him in, that's what, or consultant, but he's going to be full-time. So he's part of the coaching side. That's where I think it's a genius thing. Because to be honest, what bothers you in defensive, where I agree with you, he's gonna teach you, because Johnny, you're a former back row. For you, defenses collectively, you need to know your stuff and you need to chop people in half. So there's also that physicality technique element that I don't think he's gonna teach them ever. But you must admit that defense is a hell of a lot about what are you allowed to do or not. And allowed to do or not is the rucks, is the rules. And that's where he could be particularly clever, bringing that side angle. And Philippe, to be fair, that's always been his clever side, is that he's the type of coach that is not scared of bringing somebody with a different angle and different point of view, and he's humble enough to let them do their thing and then decide whether it fits or not. Some guys will just be, completely closed off. No, my baby, my team, my reins, never let go of the steering wheel. Whereas he doesn't mind. So that's why I think it's particularly clever. Never been done. Quite proactive and modern, and clever play.
So the thing to add on to it is, I saw also yesterday that Cast are looking to bring a referee into their team as well.
Yeah.
So I think it might be Philippe Saint-André is the first guy that's going to do it. But then what happens to the bank of French referees that are currently refereeing in the top 14? Are we going to have to bump up their salaries? Because if every club can come in and say, we want a specialist to help us get an edge, whether it's defensively or at scrum time or work with our guys, which clubs do. They have a sort of relationship where you can come in and do 1 day a week. But if Montpellier say, we want to have one on the books that helps us full time, there's one away from the top 14. If Cast are saying the same, another top level away from the top 14, what happens to that bank of referees that we've built up over time in France? Where do you get the new supply from, and how does it work? That's my next part. Is I think it's smart. Again, if it was defense coach, it's a stretch too far for me personally. But if you're looking for a guy to come in and give you an edge, wonderful idea. But then he obviously, if he's working with Montpellier full time, he can't referee at the same time. And how many of these guys will go? So what happens to the bank of referees long term for France?
He's giving up. He's giving up his refereeing career.
Exactly. So the same thing happens with Cast, and the quality of the refereeing across the board might dip in the top 14, which ain't great either.
Yeah. Well, if anything, it will force them to shake things up, inject some more money, and finally build up a proper talent pool of some quality coaches between Jérôme Garcès, who retired after the World Cup, and Alexandre Ruiz, and potentially somebody else. That could be a big hit.
We look forward to seeing how that move pans out on Premier Sports next season. And it's the final round of the top 14 campaign this weekend. So every game will be kicking off at the same time. Loads of teams with something to play for. So can you two remember what it's like going into that final weekend of a season with everything on the line, and maybe having to keep an eye on other results as well?
I don't know what you think, Johnny, but
we were in different situations. Let's be clear from the outset.
But that's exactly what I wanted to say.
I was in gut-wrenching, horrible.
I don't believe it being as tense and as completely split in the Premiership. Maybe it is now because I played in the Premiership a long time ago. But I felt that the dice were pretty much, rolled a couple of weeks before. You sort of knew where we go. Every single year, maybe because it's top 4 compared to top 6. So I'm guessing there's more teams, more possibilities and all that. But every single year in France, there's always the big drama of, either who gets relegated on the last game or who gets to the Champions Cup in the top 6 qualifiers in the last game. It happens absolutely every year. And to give you an example, in 2007, when we win it with Stade, we were fighting for qualification. I can't remember where we stood in the table, but we needed to win. And our last game so happened to be in Agen. And Agen were fighting desperately not to get relegated. In our squad, we had 2 boys who signed for Agen the year after. Arnaud Marchois, the big second row, and Jérôme Fiol, the scrum half, who both started the game. So you're playing to kill your future. And there was no agreement of saying, listen, if Agen get relegated, because they could get out of their contract, but there was no agreement saying, listen, worst case, they get relegated, you can stay in Stade for another year. There was none of that. They didn't know. Mathieu Bastaro that year also signed from Massy in Agen. That's the only reason why he didn't end up going in Agen, then signed in Stade the year after, the big relegation. And I remember going to this game. So I almost had to, you have to split your brain in two. Like there was the question of helping out your mates that in the team, and Arnaud Marchois is just a big second row that I did all the age group with, and I was really close to at that time. We only had a year difference. And I could tell this guy was in pieces, poor thing. He was talking, it's literally shooting yourself in the foot, right? He didn't know where to go. Agen were desperate. They would do anything. I remember Jalil Nargissi, the hooker, the former, I think he was a Moroccan international, who he had hatred in his eyes. I think he told me about 15 times he's going to break my knees and kill me and this and this and that, just try to psych me up. But we were a much better team than them. We ended up winning the top 14 that year, and we won. We won with flashy pink jerseys. They hated it. And I remember that night, actually, well, for the little side story to it, Lou said, Rodrigo Roncero, qualified doctor who played a little bit in Permutations, was really one of my best mates, Stad. But he was 10 years older than me. If he said, he said black, I went black. He said white, I went white. And he really was my boss man. And we were rooming together. And obviously, the week after we played the semi-final of top 14, interdiction sortie. Nobody's allowed to go out. Yes. Rodrigo, for some whatever reason, wants to go out, but he doesn't want to go out anywhere. So obviously, we sneak out with a couple of us, and we end up in the bar where all the Agen players are drinking their sorrow away, and they're desperate about this. And we come up with the pink polo shirts that were the after-match sort of thing. Nobody could miss you, right? Ding, ding, ding. The dickheads are here. That's basically what it was flashing. And he rocks up. He already had a few drinks. And Rodrigo, if you know him, my word, he cannot be quiet. He would rock out. Et alors, les amis, comment ça va? Just started screaming to everyone. I was like, we are going to die here, right? This is my last night. Either I die tomorrow because Galtier is going to kill me. Either I die tonight because some Agen boys will literally kill me. And so in the end, we have a few beers, whatever. We come back. He's making a mess in the hotel, banging on all the doors. And I'm like, oh, my word, please stop. Please let me take you back to the room. And I chuck him. And as I chuck him to the room, one door opens, which is Fabien Galtier. Obviously only sees me in the hallway, starts bollocking me. But I had a few, so I bollock him back. So like a nightmare. And then in the end, I just go to sleep, and I go and I fall asleep, whatever. Next morning, I am dreading to go down to breakfast. I'm like, what have I done? My word. Shot myself in the foot again. Rodrigo, that's where you measure courage, comes out, like, come on, let's go for breakfast, whatever. He comes downstairs, all the boys are already eating. He's like, bloody hell, boys, I don't know who it was, but last night I was sleeping nice and easy. Some dickhead just walked around all the hallways, banging all the doors. Everybody knows that it's him, and I'm there hiding under my t-shirt, just purple red, sweating like as I can be. So yeah, that was my long story of Stade Francais Agen. But the despair on my mates who were already the two guys who signed for Agen, who were texting the agent, the hell am I going to do now? The despair and the disappointment to see on the Agen boys who were like, knew they were relegated in the bar compared to us with our pink polo shirts, jumping up. That's what it's going to be this weekend. There's going to be some hugely disappointed towns, because that's the thing. It's not just the team, it's the town that really is shaken up. There's going to be some absolutely delighted sort of bunch of boys who are going to think, all right, next week we've got the equivalent of a quarterfinal to play. But there's going to be some big teams disappointed too when you think that Stade and Toulon are the same the same amount of points. It's going to be quite nuts.
It's a bold move, that, Benji. If you're going to break Fabien Galtier's curfew, I thought you go out all in black, big overcoat, false moustache, bright pink polo shirts.
I've never been the smartest, man. I've never been the smartest. I should have, but that was Stade. Stade was to be fair to Stade Francais, that was the attitude. It was, go hard or go home. Yeah. Outshine everyone. Live your thing in your own way. Don't try to hide.
And Johnny, while Benji's out wearing his bright pink polo shirt, having a few beers, you're grafting. Your experiences of the final day.
Shitting my pants, mate. Let's be honest. So Benji, right from the outset, Benji's stress at this time of year is, are Claremont going to finish first, second, third, or fourth? Are we going to get home semi-final, go straight through, or are we going to have to do the barrage? But we're still going to go for a title, but where are we going to finish? Like, that ain't stress. Like, I did a season, I think it was 2013 or it must have been 2015 with Cast, where we were dreadful. And I mean, absolutely dreadful. And already you've got the dreads because you've been poor all year. You've got pressure from the town. Supporters aren't happy. The coaches are worried about losing their jobs. Our boys going to get contracts renewed. All these things that turn around the club that you can't control when you're playing poorly. And I can remember the stress going to the last game with Cast. We had to win at home to stay up. And it was either us or Bayonne that were going to go down as 13. It was when it was two teams got relegated, not one now automatically, and then a playoff spot. So if you were 13th or 14th, you went straight down. And that was it, just the sheer terror of potentially being part of the group, like a Scottish kid there that gets cast relegated from the top 14, was horrendous. Dealing with the emotions of the last 5-6 games of the season, the turmoil of looking around other fixtures, hoping somebody else slips up, but they don't, therefore you're in the shit, and how can you get your team out? And it just comes down to that. It's a bloodbath. Like you said, Benji, it's just how hard can you go for it? Like, team structures, templates, how you play go out the window. It's how much do you want to keep your team in the top 14? That's it. That's all that counts. Show how much you want to fight. And that's unfortunately where a couple of these teams are this weekend. You've got Bayonne and Po, huge games. We'll get onto those games in a second, but it is not easy. It's unnerving. It's unsettling. It's not easy to live through. And so once with Cast, we avoided relegation. Bayonne got relegated. We avoided it by 1 point. And we partied like we won the top 14 after we didn't get relegated. Not in pink polo shirts. But just that feeling is horrible. And then when I got relegated with Bayonne, the writing had been on the wall for so long, we were going down anyway. So as much as it was hard to swallow, you digested it over the past 2 months. We were rock bottom. We were the equivalent of Agen, not as bad as Agen, but the equivalent. And we knew it was inevitable and it was going to happen. And that's not easy to deal with either. But if you want to compare the last day scenario or the doomsday scenarios for Benji and I, they're very, very different in the teams that we played with. But it is what it is. It's not easy. And again, you said, are you looking at other teams? You almost can't, because they're all played. It's the one fixture of the year. All the kickoffs are at the same time. So you don't know what you need going into the game. You just know you have to win, try and get 5 points, try and get a bonus point, and try and get as many racked onto your points difference as possible. And that's where Bayonne and Po this weekend find themselves, like a massive shootout, and not easy for either side because they've got decent teams coming to their home grounds, which I'm sure we'll get onto a second. But yeah, emotional, not easy to go through, and I don't wish it on anyone. It is not easy as a rugby player.
And we'll come on to the bottom of the table in a minute. But Benji, you mentioned the top. There's 4 teams, Clermont, Toulon, Stade Francais, and Cast, all battling it out for 2 spots in the playoffs. And Johnny, we spoke about this a few weeks ago when we had Kane Douglas on from Bordeaux. You sort of said you thought Stade Francais might sneak in. And you stand by
that? Well, unfortunately, it brings me to the 2 games we've got that concern those ones. So Stade Francais, Cast, and Toulon. So you've got Toulon going to Cast, which I think Cast will win. Look, coming from Cast, having played there, it's hard to go there and win. It's a tough stadium to win at. But Benji, you've been there as well. It's not an easy place to play. So I think Cast will make Toulon stick on 66 points. And I think Stade Francais, unfortunately, like if you look at their past month and a half, they've smashed Brive in Brive. They pumped Montpellier. They absolutely smashed. Who did they smash at the weekend? They smashed Racing, they smashed Po, they smashed Montpellier over the past 5-6 weeks, and they put 30, 40 points on each one of these teams. Like, they are hot. They've done really well. Unfortunately, this weekend, my head tells me that Stade Francais are going to go and win in Bayonne and maybe nick 6th spot. My heart wants Bayonne to win because I want to see them stick in it. I want to see them stick in top 14. I think it's a great stadium to play in. They've got great fans. It's a great, great town. I hope that Bayonne, if the Bayonne can nick a defensive bonus point, that should be enough. But I think Stade Francais, if you look at the fixtures, I think Cast are going to beat Toulon, and I think Stade Francais, my gut says they'll win in Bayonne, but I just hope not by too much. So Stade Francais for me should finish 6th position. And then it comes down to Po against Montpellier, the other game, where Montpellier, we saw Philippe Saint-André in the press this weekend saying, look, we're not going to let anything go. On va rien lâcher. We're not going to let up. But look, those players now, they've got nothing to play for. They've won their European title. Benji, you mentioned what it was like going to Agen, but those players are absolutely scrapping for each inch on the pitch.
Yeah, no, I don't.
You know, so for Po, I think Po will win. And it's then a difference. I think it's 4 points difference between Bayonne and Po just now. So if Po win, they're on 41. If they get up to 45 equal with Bayonne, their points difference is way better, which then stuffs Bayonne. So my hope is that Bayonne can nick a defensive bonus point or win the game and stay up. But look, I think Po will smash Montpellier at home this weekend at Stade Hameau because it's their season. They're fighting for their season. They've got Elton Yanchis come in and they have to do something. So Look, it's a horrible situation. Although Benji, you've never been in this situation, but I'm not sure how you'd feel about the relegation playoff game. But again, that's not easy because you go to, we haven't talked about it, but if you go to Perpignan or Biarritz, who are potentially going to go up, whoever loses that game gets a second bite of the cherry against either Bayonne or Po, but at home. So you'd be going to Biarritz or Perpignan with now crowds in the stadium, which isn't easy either. So, like, I don't know how you see the bottom of the table, but for me, Bayonne have to nick something from this game against Stade Francais, but Stade Francais are coming in hot and aiming for top 6, and I think they've got enough quality. With what they've shown over the past 4, 5, 6 weeks, they've got enough quality to win in Bayonne.
Yeah, so we basically painted it a couple of weeks ago about saying that there's 9 spots, there's 9 teams for 6 spots on the top, and there's 4 teams, but clearly 3 basically that are fighting not to get relegated. So at the bottom, it was basically Brive, Pau, and Bayonne, considering that Agen were dead meat. And on the top, you knew who was going to qualify, roughly, depends on the order, okay, but you knew who was going to qualify. But then it was Lyon, it was Stade Francais, and it was Toulon, who were all battling for 1 spot. Now, Lyon are out of the picture because they lost at the weekend. And Stade Francais, fair play to them, have just, like Johnny said, are coming in hot, winning game after game, and are really delivering. Let's not forget, they also sort of seized a couple of opportunities because they played Montpellier post sort of, Challenge Cup final and this and that when things were getting better. They played Toulon after three games in 8 days, when the boys had to be rotated. It was really, really tough, but fair play to them. They are delivering. So they are coming hot. I don't agree with you in how it's going to be one-dimensional, not one-dimensional, but how they're going to sneak a win in Bayonne. I really see Bayonne sneaking one out of sheer gut and determination. It's going to be a hell of a game. I agree with you, but I see them outpacing them. And I'll see them sneak in that one. But the real tough one, because I still see Toulon as just a better side than Stade Francais when they have everybody on the pitch and when they're ready to go. But like you said, going in Castres is going to be mental. So I have a feeling that those 2 teams will not be able to beat the home teams, Castres and Bayonne. But we'll both be able to snatch. It's going to be down to, because it's a 5-point defensive bonus point in France. It's going to be down to who manages, to do that and not finish with the 6-point difference and then fall in pieces. So it's going to be nuts. I do agree with you that Montpellier, whatever Philippe can say, will not have the grit and the energy to fight with Pau at home because Pau are absolutely desperate, and because Pau, when they turn it on, they're a good team. Again, it's when they turn it on. All these teams are good teams anyhow. And that's why it's pretty mental. When you look at it, somebody was telling me yesterday, before last week's game, Bayonne, if they lose against Stade Francais, would get relegated with 10 wins. Before last week, Toulouse, top of the league, had 15 wins in the whole thing. That's the difference that you're talking about. Between the
crazy.
Two. It's a bonus point at home. It's a defensive bonus point away. It's X, Y, and Z, and obviously a couple of wings along the way. Okay, but you're talking second to bottom to top of the league. That's the difference. It is mega tight. All these teams are very good. Bayonne beat, who did they beat? Well, they beat Clermont last minute, didn't they? And like in the opening weeks, they beat Toulon there. They beat Montpellier. They've beat some serious teams.
Toulouse away as well.
They beat Toulouse in Toulouse. So, yeah, I think didn't they beat Racing at the beginning of the season out of a massive upset out of nowhere.
Big teams.
So they have really beat some big teams. And Pau at home, when they turn it on, they did really well. So you just don't know. It's a bit of a coin toss. All I know is that all those coaches do not want to end up in the position of Toulon and Stade Francais at the end, where it's going to be, you're standing on your phone, you're looking at who's doing what, the boys are speaking on the radio. They need to know, is a bonus point enough for us or not?
Yeah, 100%.
At the 72nd minute, you will see, every time there's a penalty, you will see basically Baptiste Sorin asking for the bench, how's the other game doing? Because if they're getting trashed for some whatever reason, Bayonne are putting 40 on Stade, then they can just, kick 3, concede defeat, but still go through. It's one of those crazy, it still reminds me of that Clermont Bordeaux in the Champions Cup with Clermont, when if Morgan Parra kicked the 22 in front of the sticks, if we took the 3 points, we would have been in Champions Cup quarters. But losing at home, conceding defeat, admitting defeat at home is a bit impossible. So he just tapped and go, and we went and we tried to score to win. We didn't score, and we lost. And we realized afterwards that the bench was sort of waving at us, get the fucking points. Because if you do it through in the quarters, it's putting your heart aside and just thinking with your head.
And in terms of the top 6 in the top 14, Benji, we haven't even mentioned Clermont yet. They're at home to La Rochelle. It's not cut and dry, is it? Any part of you nervous at all for Clermont?
No, actually, no. Then the reason why, well, of course, I am a little bit nervous, but the reason why I've got also a certain amount of confidence is the way that they played against Toulouse. So I watched that game. It was a brilliant game, by the way. I don't know if anybody saw it. There was some crazy good rugby played. Some crazy. It's always Toulouse-Clermont is always an absolute delight, but this one was pretty cool with no fans. Okay, because it was played at night, but it was very cool. They were hungry. They were really pissed off, really hungry, and they conceded. I mean, my word, some stupid tries. So Antoine Dupont ran around Rabat Slimani, who couldn't barely even touch him at one point, and then it's a 2-on-1, and it's a try. And then the last one, did you see the one, Johnny, just before halftime? Game is over. Sebastien Bevzy tried to kick it out, except it's like a grubber kick that he just needs to get to touch, and it's sweet, except he misses it. It bounces on somebody else. Toulouse get it again, and they ended up scoring under the sticks just before halftime and going ahead. Otherwise, Clermont were tied with them. So the reason why I believe in them is that they really showed not just quality, but pissed offness, physicality, anger that they're desperately going to need next week. And that's why I see them going through. Now it's always I would have rather see them go through number 3 or number 4, but there definitely won't be. They will be 5th or 6th, which means going away for a barrage. So that doesn't sound good for the rest of the season. But still, going to the barrage, at least you give yourself an opportunity to be like, right, anything can happen. Shift of mindset. We've got nothing to lose. Let's go at it.
Do you agree, Johnny?
Yeah, I do. They were outstanding in parts of that game, and I thought they could have taken more. Also, with Camille Lopez coming back this weekend, that's a big boost. First choice 10 back in. And look, they're just so hard to break down at home. Like, irrespective, La Rochelle have been fantastic all year. Like, you're going to Clermont playing away from home against that side for their last, again, it's a massive pride thing. We haven't really mentioned that, but the last home game for any club in France of the season is a huge occasion. I know supporters aren't going to be there, but still, it's a massive game, and they'll want to send everyone that's leaving the club off on a high. So yeah, I see Clermont winning that one too.
And one of Toulon, Stade Francais and Cast are going to miss out on Champions Cup rugby for next season as well, aren't they? Because Montpellier won the Challenge Cup, so that means only top 7 get Champions Cup.
So I've already given you my prediction. I think it's going to be Toulon.
That's going to sneak out, man.
I just, the way Stade Francais have been going, I see them winning in Bayonne, even though I don't want them to win in Bayonne, quite clearly. They've been phenomenal. And I think Cast have got enough to win at home against Toulon, even though they're jam-packed with superstars. I think last game at home, like I just said for Clermont, it's the exact same for Cast. It's the team that I think is going to miss out, which is crazy. Winners, Toulon.
So potentially the 3-time European champions not in next season's top tier, Benji.
Yeah. To be honest, they're rebuilding, aren't they? But it would be particularly sore considering, I mean, the questions that are going to be asked to Colazo and to the owner are going to be particularly bitter, considering the 2 upsets, the cancelled games in Clonakilly and the cancelled game in
that's
Leinster.
Not easy either.
So they're going to be like, right, we got stuffed twice, because they did get stuffed twice. And then on top of that, we don't get, to compete. It's completely 2 separate complete elements. It's down to them. They should have beaten the teams in top 14. Okay. But still, it's going to be a tough one to swallow. I still see them, once they click, once they get everybody on the pitch, once they really perform, whenever they had to deliver at home, they really did every single game. They smoked Toulouse, they smoked Bordeaux at the weekend, and Bordeaux were coming in hot with a strong side, and they smoked them, and they really did. And Patrice Colazo was actually livid to not have taken the offensive bonus point, because it was really there for the taking, and that would have been a world of difference coming into that last game. So that's going to be a massive upset, but fair play to Gonzalo Quesada, who's clearly doing a hell of a lot of good to Stade Francais, shaking things around, maneuvering players.
How good is your seconds? how good is your seconds, the 10 they've got playing? Who, when I was in Pro D with Bayonne, he was at Aurillac. And I was like, who's this kid that can kick the ball from everywhere on the pitch? Like keeping Nico Sanchez on the bench, you talk about Gonzalo Caseda, but that young French kid come from nowhere, come from Aurillac. He's been outstanding.
Yeah, he's funny because so in 2015, I lost the top 14 final to Stade Francais with Clermont, and it was the whole era of Djibril Camara, Arthur Bonneval, Sergio Parisse, Julien Dupuis was at 9, Rabat Slimani tight head, and Gonzalo Quesada was the coach. And he that was Fatou, Jonathan Danty at 12 and all that. And they really based everything on, sheer determination, balls. Basically, that's what it was. And they had the same issue. They had Jules Plisson and Mornestein at 10. Mm-hmm. Mornestein was a huge signing for them, did not play again that season. But then for whatever reason, in February, he started kicking and never missing a kick. And he was just absolutely unbelievable. And that's really what happened with Sanchez and Joris Second, is that this other guy is basically now kicking absolutely beautifully, who clearly came as number 2 behind Nicolas Sanchez. Huge contract, huge signings, just beat the ABs with the Pumas and all that. And I think he's basically replicating it. It's also a matter of saying it speaks a lot to the boys. It's the proper communication. It's a proper motivation to say, right, when I tell you that the best guys, the guys who wanted the most will play, this is an example. Right. And that means I don't need to repeat it every time. As soon as you say number 21, Nico Sanchez, number 10, Joris Second, right? Your actions speak more than your words. And I think that's what he's doing at the moment. And that's where he's clever, because he's quite ballsy. I'm pretty sure he's having quite a lot of pressure from the president and say, listen, we're paying 50 grand a month or whatever it is, or 700 a year for Nico Sanchez. You better play him from time to time, but rather than your Stade Aurillacois guy, Frenchie, slightly overweight, but who's very, very good, to be fair.
So plenty of games that look mouth-watering in the final round this weekend, but that Cast Toulon one is the pick, isn't it?
I think to be honest, I would have loved to be on a Saturday afternoon, not at night, stuff the night, Saturday afternoon in Jean Daugé in Bayonne to see Bayonne Stade, because that would have been the beauty of French rugby. They would have rocked that place. Like Johnny's house would have been on roller skates. It would have been unreal. It would have been everything that we love about that pride of belonging. Right, it's going to be songs. It would have been. Did you see the semi-final? Was it, who did Perpignan play? Oyonnax.
Yeah.
The Perpignan fans were going bananas outside the stadium with fumigènes and all that, just cheering their boys. Do you think that doesn't impact the players? Are you kidding me? Whether you're foreign, old, young, French, whatever, born and bred in Perpignan or from elsewhere, it counts. That's why the boys, I know John Olugia, the former hooker from Clermont, my mate, who signed in Bayonne, they're desperate for that. They signed for that because it's part of the history of the club. They signed for the fans, for the singing, for the stadium, for the match day experience. So they live for that. They haven't seen that. We've been denied this because of this flipping COVID. It's nobody's fault, but that's how it is. And so the boys are desperate to have those emotions. Rugby is massively a game of emotions. It's times 1,000 in France, so it's even more than that. And so that game would have been absolutely tremendous. So in terms of quality of rugby, probably Clermont-La Rochelle is going to be up there. In terms of tension, Castres Toulon is going to be so tight that is going, you will hear everybody's teeth sort of grinding at each other. But with a bit of crowd, Bayonne Stade would have been beautiful.
Yeah, I think Bayonne Stade, you got Pau Montpellier as well, everything to play for there. And then one game that we haven't even mentioned is Bordeaux against Toulouse. So Bordeaux at the weekend, you got Urios, who was raging. He's lost that Champions Cup semi in Toulouse after COVID, having had that taken from him. He'll be excited to get them up to Bordeaux and get them at home. The last game of the regular season, like a huge game of rugby, class teams, class players on the field. So look, everybody with something different to play for this weekend, but with something to play for. Like there's only one game that really counts for absolutely nothing. I think it's Lyon-Agen, but everyone else has got something to play for. So look, you obviously want it, as Benji said, you want it to be in the sunshine, you want fans in the stadium. It's not going to be the case, but there should be some huge games of rugby this weekend.
Just to avoid all doubt, Give us your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
Mate,
and even 7.
I just looked. No, because we're talking, but we're talking. We're trying to, to foresee the future. Toulouse and La Rochelle on 77, but even Racing on number 3, they could potentially sneak a 1 and 2 phase because they're only 4 points behind. Bordeaux are playing Toulouse. If they win 5-0 with an offensive bonus point and it's equal, I don't even know how they're gonna pick that, but their goal average difference is higher than Toulouse. So potentially Bordeaux would sneak and would kick Toulouse out of the top 3 also. You just don't know. It's going to be absolutely mind-boggling, and that's why everybody's going to be looking at their phone. And the last thing that you want is to be depending on somebody else. You want to be in the Castres shoes. You know, be like, right, we win at home, we're qualified. Done. You want to be Toulon, Clermont. They know that they can't go to top 2. They know that it's potentially going to be, it's too far to go to top 4 unless they beat offensive bonus point and blah, blah, blah. So they're like, we just want to get to the barrage, beat La Rochelle, stuff the rest. That's the position that you want to be in. But the rest is going to be absolutely bananas. If I had to pick.
You do, Benji. I'm making you.
All right. I'll go number 1. I would say out of absolutely nowhere, the top 2 are going to stay the same. Toulouse and La Rochelle are going to stay the same. I would say Bordeaux will sneak in at 3rd and La Rochelle will be 4th. Racing will be 4th. Doesn't change much. And I would say Clermont will stick to 5th. And I will say the big bet of the day is that I say that Castres will be number 6. I apologize for my mates of Toulon, but I don't see them winning.
Mate, the weird thing is that Racing are home to Brive, right? And Brive have got absolutely nothing to play for. So again, that for me is a 5-point win for Racing.
Yeah.
And then we've already said that we reckon Clermont are going to beat La Rochelle. So I can almost see Racing jumping into the top 2.
Yeah, but if La Rochelle just sneak in 1 point, that was my idea. Just
and
1
same
point.
as Toulouse. Toulouse need 1 point from their game against Bordeaux, but are they both going to finish with losing bonus points?
Because then it's the only time of the year you start looking. At the end of the table it says plus minus. It's a
calculate right
difference. Yeah, but La Rochelle are sky high. So my idea was that if they get a defensive bonus point, even if Racing win with 5, they're still miles away ahead. So that was my only way of seeing it.
Okay, cool. Right, well, I'll go the same then, just to be easy, because my head's exploding with the math. But I can see Toulouse and La Rochelle both losing. It's purely a question of, do they both pick up a losing bonus point? If they don't, I can see Racing jumping ahead of one of them. So I'm going to say either one of Toulouse or La Rochelle is going to finish 3rd. Either one of them is going to finish 2nd, and Racing is going to jump into number 2 spot. And then my 6th team that's going to jump in, Clermont are going to be in there. I think that the 6th team is going to be Stade Francais.
Thanks, Johnny. Thanks, Benji. Can't wait to see it all play out on Premier Sports this weekend as well in the UK. And thanks to all of you guys for listening as well. Make sure you hit subscribe, leave us a nice review too if you can, and we'll be back with another episode next week. Au revoir, guys.
Cheers.
See you, fellas.